Cheers, guys. Epix 911, welcome to the Thursday, February 9th, 2017 edition of VR News. Going to start with a bit of a flip-flop in the news. HTC Vive, there was a lot being said. They had a lot of announcements in January. A lot of that had to do with CES 2017. They used that as a launch point for much of what they've got going on the next few months. We didn't hear a lot from Oculus in the month, other than the trial, and that was kind of at the near. Since the trial, they've been in the news quite a bit, and as with that story, they were probably hoping for better press, but they're at least getting press, and it'll be interesting to see what happens March. We do have some other trade shows between here and E3, but that is the big one, so it'll be interesting if we get hints of anything other than what they've announced before then. Let's talk about the game John Wick Chronicles. This is a game I've downloaded and installed, aiming for a video tomorrow for Game and Friday on this. Apparently, and it's mixed what I'm hearing. I'm hearing 50 minutes, 50, all the way up to 4 hours of gameplay. Now, it's not a super cheap game. I'm hoping it's a bit more on the longer side. And that, 50 minutes equates to basically a speed run. That's what I'm hoping, because definitely I would play it a lot slower than that. So yeah, installed, gonna try it, looks promising. Next, Robinson the Journey. We talked about them not having touch control for their Oculus launch. What they do have is the ability to tweak the game via your PC. So whether you've got a lower end, medium, or some super rig, you're going to be able to find settings that complement your hardware. So you're going to be able to tweak resolution scale, shadow quality, SSDO quality, anti-aliasing, and distant object quality. There's a link to an article I'm going to try to find again. I noticed just now that I didn't put it up here, but it gets into what they did setting-wise with their 1080 and admittedly a very beefy i7 PC. But it was very promising. So yeah, it doesn't have the touch controls, but it is going to be a looker. And like I said, wasn't one of my favorite games, but it also wasn't in the worst category. It was an average game propped up by some really good graphics. Now, Hulu, the streaming service. Netflix is the one that my family has. I don't even know if you could get Hulu here. I've never actually tried here in Canada, but they've just partnered with Oculus to add Oculus Room functionality to their application. So you can share room space, watch 360 or cinema mode with buddies in a private room. So right now that's on Gear VR, not on the Rift yet. So the standard Rift has gotten some features like you're able to use touch controllers in it now, but still no Oculus Rooms or VR yet, but it is planned. All right, a project we have not talked about for quite a while, many months in fact, Intel's Project Alloy. So they've got some exciting plans for their next prototype. Granted, it is still a prototype, but it's starting to make some headway. So one of the things that I complained about initially was just the really subpar tracking and rendering, the mixed reality stuff. It looked pretty bad in my opinion. Promising in terms of what it could do one day, but not ready for prime time. So obviously one of the reasons they're doing stuff like this. So significantly enhanced computer vision capabilities is what they're promising with this next prototype, in that it's going to have a next generation RealSense camera. Not the one that we saw, which, like I said, did a bit of a subpar job. So that's good. Also, they are extending the field of view. They didn't specify by how much. It was a little less than the Rift and Vive at the time with the first prototype. Hopefully, it's in that ballpark, if not even a little bit more. And as well as it's going to feature a 7th generation, one of the Kaby Lake mobile processors. And this story, WebVR, officially launching on Chrome for Android with Daydream support. So anyone who updates or installs Chrome on an Android device, you will now have that WebVR functionality built in. So if it's not something you want, you don't want it cluttering, maybe avoid the update, but eventually you're probably going to have it. This next story was neat. It gives us a glimpse into one of the Oculus facilities, one of their R&D spaces. Now, Michael Abrash, I'm a huge, well, let's just say I admire the guy greatly. Abrash has done a lot for video game industry, algorithms, video game technology, graphics in general. I was reading his stuff in the late 80s, early 90s. Like, he's got some real pivotal books if you're into programming. He's heading up this R&D lab that Mark Zuckerberg visited, and it was neat because you see Mark with a glove, but the thing that everybody seemed to comment on is, guess what wasn't there? He had a rift on his head, but there was no constellation tracking. It looked, and I'll vet that further if that's not the case, but what I've researched so far based on commentary is that it is a proprietary tracking system, a much more advanced tracking system than the Constellation. So there you have that. And what he was doing with the glove supposedly was using it to type. We talked about that with virtual keyboards. As well as doing the typing, there was one pose that he struck. It's probably the picture I have up now where he's doing the Spider-Man sling, right? Pressing down on the web shooter. So that looked very cool. Be interesting to see how much of that and when it gets released in this 10-year grand plan that they have. Because the gloves looked good. But a little worrying, the tracking, but who knows? Maybe with all the points on there, you know what? It just probably wasn't suited to Constellation. And yet Constellation, probably fine for us at the consumer level, given the right software update. Next story, Oculus has a new accessories section on their store. So they've got the replacement headphones as well as the standbys that they've had before, like your sensor. They've also got the earbud headphones available, plus of course the replacement ones for the regular, the over-the-ear ones. So have a look at that. It's a little costly. For example, a replacement for your remote, if you haven't been there for a while, $29. 4-meter headset replacement cable, $49. Facial lining, $29 US, and then replacements for the on-ear headphones, $39 US. All right, this next story, a little sciencey, but very, very freaking cool. I've said before, I am a huge Carl Sagan fan. Absolutely watched Cosmos when I was a kid with my dad. Just one of those pivotal moments in my life. I'm not exaggerating. Cosmos was that impactful to my young brain. It was just an awesome series to watch, and what a guy to relay science to the masses. Along those lines comes this application. It's a series called The Possible, and this second one is episode 2, and it's called Listening to the Universe. And it's really neat because what it deals with is one of Einstein's predictions. And what he had predicted was the existence of gravitational waves, ripples in space-time. But the important thing he said around that was they would likely not be viewable by human eyes. Now, of course, he didn't know about, the electron microscopes and the technology that we would invent, from when he was alive to now. But an MIT physics professor did the math on that and, decided based on those calculations, which I understand have been peer-reviewed, that you would be able to see those. And they are now in the process of building this thing, a device that will allow you to do exactly that. That will be episode 2. So sounds really, really interesting. It's playable on the Within app. Within app for iOS, Android, Steam VR, Oculus Home, PlayStation VR, as well as their website if you head over there. And that is in 360. Next story. Finally, a proper application for the Gear VR. One of the reasons I haven't done any gameplay videos with my Gear VR, it's not for lack of not enjoying the device. I enjoy it plenty, but I have tried literally half a dozen different applications to get what I see there onto my computer screen to record it. And there's mirroring apps. There's a lot of them, but they all have deficiencies. Deficiencies that, in my opinion, are big enough that they would just ruin the video. Today comes announcement of a prototype application that should put that whole issue to rest. It's basically going to mirror the footage and even allow creators to track where a user is going and looking within a VR application. And there's some multiplayer possibilities. All right, guys, that is it for the news on this Thursday. Tomorrow, Game Friday. Can't wait. I need it this week. Damn, do I ever. As always, guys, cheers.